Okay, this video is going to look at the different types of user interface that you can get in computer systems. We need to know of different types of interface, and we need to understand the purpose of different types of interface. So we are going to do the following today. We're going to identify different types of user interface, we're going to describe different types of user interface, and we'll also have a little look about evaluating the importance of good interface design. But this does tie in with some of the other topics later on, this last point. So it won't be just this video that gives you this information. So the different types of interface you need to know are the following: graphical user interface, form-based interface, menu-based interface, natural language interface, and command line interface. You will probably have had experience of GUI, form-based, menu-based, and natural language. Some of you will have had experience of command line, so you can relate this to things you have seen before. But we'll look at some examples as we're going through this as well, and I'll play you a few video clips also. So a GUI, graphical user interface, is made up of WIMP, Windows icons, menus, and pointers. We can see this is an example of Microsoft Windows. We've got Windows here. We've got icons, which are pictures that help you. We've got pictures here as well. We've got menus here and here. And we've got a pointer, which is the mouse. So GUI is made up of Windows icons, menus, pointers. They provide a visually appealing interface which is effective for inexperienced users. That's a key point. It's good for inexperienced users. They are intuitive, which means you can work things out yourself. A negative of them is they take up a large amount of storage space and processing power compared to other interfaces, just because of the amount of graphics that are involved in such an interface. Okay, form-based system you'll all done before as well. Form-based interface is one in which the computer outputs separate prompts and response fields for the number of inputs. So the interface prompts the user to ask each of the questions in turn, makes the user input the information in the correct order and ensures nothing is missed, ensures the data is correct by having specific areas to input the data, and makes the checking of information easier through things like validation. Here's an example of an answer you might give in an exam. So prompts to say where data should be entered. So what are the characteristics of form-based interface? Prompts to say where data should be entered. Methods to ease data entry, such as drop-down menus or radio buttons. Ensures there's no necessary information is missing. And it allows simple validation of data. Okay, when would you use forms? An answer to that question would be: forms simplify processing because all the information is standard. They are used to collect data in applications and can often be seen on websites. So, next one, menu-based. Menus lead to further menus that lead down to further menus, each time drilling down to the target information. Example that many of you will have seen will be something like a TV guide on your computer. Sorry, on your TV. Fall asleep on your TV. The other places you might have seen them is in mobile phones, in settings on the iPhone, for example. There's a menu-based system, and various other places. Exam answer: characteristics of menu-based, list of choices on screen, choice made by user leading to further menus. Again, here's an example of a TV guide with menus where you can go through different options. When would you use menu-based? Used when wanting to limit choices for people with little knowledge to simplify the system. So, inexperienced users, it's intuitive again. Restricts users to areas of system that developer wants to be seen. You can't access other areas of the system, you can only access what the menus will allow you to. Allows use of a touchscreen easily and is easy to use and intuitive. So when you might want to use a touchscreen might be a situation you use a menu-based system, such as a tourist information system, or potentially in the supermarkets you have menu-based systems for the self-service checkouts. The tourist information system, think about it. If we had an information system down at the Albert Dock, you wouldn't want those people who are using that to have to use a mouse and keyboard and things like that. They'd probably want to be using a touchscreen to make it simple and less equipment that would potentially get damaged. Therefore, a menu-based system would be suitable for such a program. Also, you want it to be simple so that they can use it, and you don't want them to get access to other parts of the program or application that would allow them to mess around with the settings of that system. Next one, natural language interface. The computer will ask a question which the user responds to, which gives the user the impression they are talking to the computer. So the computer limits itself to questions to which only the sensible answers are the one it knows. If the user leaves expected response, then the computer will complete whatever the task it has been set. So exam answer might have intuitive and appropriate for almost anyone. However, they are poor in noisy environments if they are spoken. Also, if spoken, they may get confused with accents. There's two negatives to natural language. Expert systems very often use natural language interface. They allow the user to use human syntax, as the user will find the use of natural syntax easier than they can then concentrate on the task rather than the software. As expert systems are complex, the simplification of queries will be useful to the user. Let's look at this example. Not this one, let's look at this example.
Computer, last message received and recorded from Captain Kirk.
Computer, this is Lieutenant Commander Data. Please access all Starfleet command orders to starships, starbases, and colonies for the last 6 months.
Working.
So there's an example of a menu-based system, a natural language system. Here's another one.
We have a flat tire.
How do I tie a bow tie again?
What's the fastest way to Hartford Hospital?
Do I need an umbrella in New York this weekend?
Remind me to call Chris when I get home.
Move my meeting from 3 to 4?
What does a weasel look like?
Remind me to get milk when I leave work.
Tell my wife I'm gonna make it.
Wake me up at 6.
Play some Coltrane.
I'm locked out.
I found 3 locksmiths fairly close to you.
Say hello to the most amazing iPhone yet.
So again, 2 natural language interfaces there, which are examples that you can use to help you remember what a natural language interface is. Just be aware, you wouldn't say those are the examples in the exam. The example is the one I gave you, which would be used for something like an expert system. You could say used for a mobile phone, but don't say obviously Siri or Apple, because you cannot use language such as that. You have to use the correct terminology and not brand names in the exam. Right, last one, command line. These require the user to write single line commands for the computer to carry out. The user has to know what commands are available and appropriate for what he or she wishes to do. This interface is powerful in the hands of an inexperienced user, but it can be frustrating in the hands of an inexperienced user. I should have said experienced user, of an experienced user. These are very good for someone who has experience of the commands, but it's frustrating in the hands of an inexperienced user. So let's have a look at this example. Let me get rid of the sound on this one so I can talk over it. So here we've got someone who's going to use a command line interface. They are opening up a command line in Microsoft Windows. And here you can see a prompt for the user to be able to type in the various commands. The way you use it is you'd have to know what the commands are. So this person's typing in a command that then allows them to, if I just pause that, then allows them to see all the different files and folders within this system. And then they can run one of these files and folders within the system or open one of the folders. For example, to open a folder you would type in cd / and then the name of the folder, if that was in the root directory. And then if you needed to open up further folders, you could type in cd / the name of the folder, then another / and another name of another folder, and so on and so on and so on. To copy files, you would type in copy c : the name of the folder, ***, and then the location you want to put it into. All these different commands allow you to use the command line quickly and efficiently. It's also an interface that doesn't take as much resources because there aren't images. The problem, however, is if you don't know the commands, you can't use the computer, and it's very difficult. The help isn't as good and it's not as intuitive because you haven't got images that help you understand what it is, and you can't just click through trial and error. You need to know the commands to be able to do things. So it isn't perfect for users who are inexperienced, but it is very good for users who are experienced, as they can access the whole of the computer and they can do things quicker. So let's have a quick look. this is the type of answer you would get for characteristics of command line interface. The user needs to know the commands that are available. The user needs to understand the commands. The user needs to understand the way the material is stored in the computer system. Because of this, there are two very important characteristics of a command-based system. A system is much more open than other types of interface. Other interfaces restrict the options that the user has available to them, whereas the command line interface only allows anyone with a knowledge of the commands access to the entire operating system and hence the workings of the computer. So anyone who has knowledge of commands can access the whole of the operating system and the entire computer's workings. Command-based interfaces can only be used by computer literate people because you only have to understand the commands and their uses, but you also need to know something about how the computer operates, particularly how information is stored. It's important that you know how everything is stored in the computer if you're going to use a command-based system. Okay, let's finish off with just a quick look at the importance of good interface design. However complex the software, however expensive or powerful the hardware, the system is unusable if there's no intuitively simple to use interface with a human being who is in control of the system or for whom the system is producing results. The human-computer interface must be unambiguous and must allow the user to input all the data that the user thinks important. The HCI must also produce output in an easily understandable form. So the use of interface is important. An interface for a nursery school play group teaches children about numbers will need to be very different from an interface for a manager of a chemical plant who wants to check reactions around the plant. This interface that the manager may use will be very different from the interface of the same person if they want to see flow of chemical around the plant. The first may see tables, figures and graphs, whereas the second may see a diagram of the plant. So the use of interface is going to be different depending on the situation. Have a look at the video on output and I'll go through a little bit of a description on the forms of output because this ties in with that. Circumstances play a part. If the system was in a hospital and the nurse had to monitor groups of patients, then the audible warning would be an appropriate form of output rather than output via text. Think about when you use the self-service checkouts. What is the interface and what hardware is also involved? So when you're using self-service, you're going to have a touchscreen and you're going to be able to input your various items through use of a barcode scanner as well as manually through the touchscreen if you need to, and the outputs are going to be sound and a printout of a receipt as well as the information coming up on the screen to show what you have purchased so you can check that what you've scanned is the correct item. Now, amongst other things that you can probably think of when you're thinking about that situation. The design also needs to be taken account of. The interface allows data to be inputted and information to be outputted. If the system is to be one for entertainment purposes, then the interface needs to add some enjoyment to the user. However, if it were for a payroll system, then functionality and ease of use is even more paramount. But if it can be pleasurable at the same time, it also improves efficiency. So when you're considering the purpose of the interface, you need to think, who is it for? What information needs to be conveyed? What circumstances will it need to operate under? The effectiveness of the communication and the enjoyment being obtained when using it. And that is everything on the different types of interface that you need to cover. What we've gone through here are the 5 different types of user interface, and what we've gone through over here are things that need to be considered when choosing an interface. This ties in later on with the output of information, so watch the video on that and you'll get a bit more understanding of this type of section. Hope that helps and see you again soon.